So have you ever wondered what it takes to clean Optimus Prime and get him prepped for shows? Today, you're about to find out. So I just arrived here in New York getting ready for a show, and I got a lot of cleaning ahead of me. And what's interesting about this particular trip, and the reason I decided to do this video, is I drove through the absolute worst weather I've ever driven through. So Optimus is at a new level of filthy. And it's going to take me quite a bit to do this thing, but in general it doesn't really matter where I go, how far I drive, what the weather is. It really does take quite a lot of time to clean Optimus and prep him for every single show. You know, in the winter it's the snow and the salts, in the summertime it's the rain and the bugs. So either way, I have to take all this time to clean it, and today you're about to find out what it takes to really clean him after driving through blizzard-like conditions. Now, many times for these trips, I'm lucky. I get the access to a wash bay, either at the venue or at a nearby dealership, which makes cleaning him a little bit easier. Today, I'm very lucky to be inside. I was actually planning to be outside. It's 20 degrees out right now. It must be 50-mile-an-hour winds and snow. I was not looking forward to cleaning him out in those conditions, but I would have, and I have in the past. Today, though, I'm a little more comfortable, thank goodness. So I basically break this up into 4 stages. And we're going to start with the first stage, which is simply just washing them down, getting all the grime off, and doing some simple soap and water cleaning. "98% of the time, I'm the only one ever cleaning Optimus. There are plenty of people who ask if they could help, and there are occasions where sometimes I'll take them up on that offer, mainly if I am unexpectedly pressed for time. But for the most part, I'm the only one that ever cleans and details Optimus Prime. And part of that boils down to the simple fact that I know what to do and how to do it. I don't know what anyone else is going to bring to the table, and I can show them how to physically clean it, but I don't know how much pressure they'll use with their hands or what type of technique they'll use when cleaning. So by doing all this work myself, I reduce the possibility of potential damage and keep Optimus looking as pristine as I possibly can. As you heard me mention a moment ago, it really doesn't matter what type of weather I drive through. It still takes me the same amount of time to clean Optimus, especially in this first stage. Now, a lot of people think that I use pretty high-end soaps and whatnot, but in reality all I use is your typical car wash soap that you'd find in any automotive store. Now, having access to running water is essential in this stage. As a matter of fact, one of the first things I always do whenever I book an appearance with Optimus is I request that they provide me with access to a water line and water hose at the venue. Many times this is not a problem, but sometimes that's not an option. So what I do in those cases is I begin researching the area that I'm heading to see if there are any truck dealerships or facilities in the area that would grant me access to use their wash bay for a few hours so that I can get Optimus generally clean before bringing him on to the show floor. But even at a dealership, the first stage of this is still the same. I use simple soap and water and a hose. I don't use any high pressure equipment or advanced soaps, mainly because I'm afraid of what they might do to the exterior surface and clear coat of Optimus Prime. So sometimes when I'm at a dealership, I have access to a high pressure hose, airline, which allows me to blow off the water. Fortunately, I don't have that today, so I brought with me this handy dandy air dryer unit. What's nice about it is it blows warm air. It's got a long hose and a long cord, so I'm able to reach the entire truck, but even using this, it still takes quite a bit of time. It would be nice at this part just to let the water dry off on its own, but unfortunately I can't do that. And really you shouldn't do that with any vehicle, because inevitably it ends up leaving some water spots behind that are almost impossible to get out without some light buffing and polishing. In my case, I do this every single time, and I try to do it as quickly as I can. Sometimes I don't have the luxury of drying it off on my own because the weather does it for me. Sometimes I'm outside in the warmer climates or in the sun, and I don't have any other option but to clean it in those conditions. The problem that creates for me is when the weather takes care of drying Optimus, water spots end up getting left behind. And when it comes to a truck like Optimus, which is dark in color, it's very easy to see the imperfections like that. So whenever that happens, it creates additional work for me, because then I'll have to buff it and polish it to get all those water spots off. This air dryer unit has come in very handy for me. I purchased it last year, and yes, it does take up a little bit more space in the truck than I would like it to, and it is kind of a pain to carry around. But in situations like these where I don't have access to an airline and where I want to reduce the amount of towels that I use on the surface to clean Optimus, it's very convenient. All I need is access to power, and then the air dryer does the rest. But no matter what I use, it's going to take some time because, let's face it, Optimus Prime is quite a large surface area. It's worth noting that I don't stop until Optimus is done. I don't take any breaks along the way. Yes, I might drink a little bit of water here and there, I might eat a granola bar here and there, but I just keep on going until Optimus is where I want him to be, or until the organizers kick me off the show floor because the doors are closing for the day, forcing me to come back the next day, continuing right where I left off. Alright, so it's 5 o'clock. I've been at this since whenever I started. I got the first 2 stages complete. I got the soap and the water done. I did the air drying. As you probably saw in the video there, there's still a lot of work I need to do. I'd like to think that I'm halfway there, but this is actually the easy stuff, and now gets into the detailing stuff. I have to clean all the paint with the waterless wash and wax thing that I have, and then I have to do all the polishing of the aluminum, and from what I can tell, I have a lot of polishing to do. So I'm gonna pull Optimus out of the garage here, bring him into the area where I'm supposed to be parked for the show, and then continue my never-ending quest to clean Optimus for this weekend. Now, as simple as this particular stage might seem, I have to be extremely careful here, because if I just add a tad too much pressure on the cloth, or if I have it folded the wrong way and use a corner of the cloth, or if I have maybe picked up the slightest bit of gravel or dirt from a previous cleaning, then I'm going to end up scratching the surface. And when you see all these fine scratches and swirl marks on clear coats, many times it's caused by the towels you're using and or too much pressure on those towels. Sometimes this process takes much longer because I have to wet sand or buff out the scratches and swirls that I end up making sometimes. And I have to be careful with that because there's only so much clear on Optimus Prime, and the more I remove, the more I risk pretty much going through all of it and ultimately damaging the paint itself. So I really do try to limit the amount of towels that I use on the surface, whether it's just detailing like this or buffing and polishing. Now, before you all start harping on me about using a ceramic coating, let me tell you a little bit about my experience with ceramics, because if you've followed me long enough, you know that I got a ceramic coating applied to Optimus in early 2018. And I want to preface this by telling all of you that the folks I worked with, they are top-notch professionals. I have no qualms with them whatsoever. I was very satisfied with their service and the way they did everything. My qualm is more with the product itself. To summarize it into a few words, I just wasn't satisfied with the ceramic. It did not live up to the expectations I had. Now, it was advertised to me as something that would eliminate a lot of the time I spend cleaning Optimus, that essentially all I'd have to do is maybe hose it down from time to time, maybe do a light towel dry on it. And you know what? I went into this with not even those expectations. I fully expected that I still would take a lot of time to clean the truck, but that the amount of time would be reduced by, let's just say conservatively, 25 or 30%. Now, maybe in the first few months of getting the ceramic, I did notice a slight difference in the way the water streamed off of the clear coat, but I did not notice any reduction in the amount of time it took me to clean Optimus. And that was my biggest gripe with the product. It just did not help whatsoever. It may have protected the clear coat better, it may have done other things that I wasn't seeing, but when it comes to the cleaning, it didn't live up to the hype. I fully realize that this could be the result of many things. It could be the result of the application, the cure time, maybe even an error on my part, though I will say that I strictly used the products that I was told to use, and that I followed every instruction to the letter when it comes to maintaining the ceramic so that it would last as long as possible. Bottom line, it just didn't do what I was hoping it would do. Now I'm fully prepared to give this another try and apply another ceramic to it to see if it really does help, because like I said, it could have been maybe a product defect. But for now, I'm going to use the old school methods of washing and waxing, until someone comes forward and convinces me that it's worthwhile to reapply the ceramic to Optimus Prime. So if you're keeping track, you can't see my thing, but it's almost 7 o'clock. And I just finished doing the paint and detailing the paint. Looks pretty good. There's probably some buffing that I have to do on that, but I'm not doing that today. So now that brings me to the final stage, which is the polishing and cleaning the chrome, the chrome and the aluminum. And most people think when they look at the truck that it's all chrome, but a good majority of it is actually the aluminum, and aluminum takes a hell of a lot of time to keep clean. So what I have to do now is start with the chrome, get that all cleaned up, just using some soap and water and a cloth, and then I gotta polish the aluminum. The tanks are starting to oxidize, the wheels. My drive to this event, my short 6-hour drive to this event, gave me easily an extra 3 hours of polishing alone on the aluminum. But as Sam Witwicky would say, or grandfather, whoever, no sacrifice, no victory, right? Most people think all the shiny stuff on Optimus is chrome, but actually it's aluminum. The wheels, the tanks, the cab rack, and many other components are not chromed, which means that it's much more difficult to maintain. And trust me, if you've never maintained the shine on aluminum before, you should give it a try, because I promise it is easily 10 times or even 100 times more difficult to maintain than anything else I've ever cleaned on Optimus Prime. And this time of year, maintaining this stuff is the worst. Yes, I drove through some bad weather, and yes, for this particular day, I'm spending a heck of a lot of time getting that aluminum polished up. But even if I just drive somewhere and kick up salt dust that was spread out from weeks ago, which is very common in my region of Pennsylvania, I have to get those salts and that dust off of the truck immediately. In fact, just in the past few months, I've only taken Optimus out a handful of times, and most of the time it was pretty decent weather. So I didn't maintain the wheels and the aluminum as much as I should have, thinking I would be okay. But lo and behold, after going back to the garage for a few weeks of sitting there, I noticed the wheels are starting to oxidize, and that salt dust is starting to eat away at the aluminum. So there are times when I don't even have any shows planned in the near future, and I'm still spending a day or two in the garage just polishing wheels and just trying to keep the salt off so that the wheels and really all of the aluminum on the truck stay as clean as I could possibly keep them. With the aluminum, I use a metal polish along with a 3-inch orbital buffer. And yes, folks, I do realize that there are other machines out there that will speed things up and help me along with this, but you have to think about it this way. Most of the time when I'm doing this, I'm on a show floor, and I can't use a large buffing wheel because that makes a mess, both in the area around me and on me in particular. So the 3-inch orbital buffer is convenient because it keeps things clean and it's permitted for me to use at most indoor shows. Yes, I do realize that the large buffing wheel will speed up the time it takes to do this, and yes, I do realize that they even make suits for people to wear to help protect them when buffing large surfaces like this. But I also have to keep the working area around me clean as well. And sometimes when I just have a few hours left until the show floor opens to the public, I don't have the luxury of using these bigger products you might typically see used at most of the detailing shops out there. When it comes to the chrome, which primarily involves the stacks and the areas behind the stairs, I use simple soap and water. I don't like using any harsh chemicals on the chrome. Partially that's because of what was suggested to me by the folks who did the chrome, and partially because I've maintained chrome in the past, and no matter what products I end up using, the chrome always starts fading over time. So my hope is that by limiting the amount of harsh chemicals I use on these surfaces, I'll maintain the look and shine of that chrome much longer than normal. So there you have it, my friends, just a little bit of insight into what it takes to clean Optimus Prime. And I want you to remember that it really doesn't matter what type of weather I drive through. In the winter, it's the salts, and in the summertime, it's the rain and the bugs. It still ultimately takes me just about the same amount of time for every single appearance I make to get Optimus Prime back to a good, show-worthy condition for all of you to enjoy. And on a bad day, when more polishing and buffing is necessary, it can get up to easily 15 or 18 hours. And on top of all that, I still have to set up my booth space, all the lighting, the red carpet, the props, so I still have another 2 to 3 hours left at this point now that the truck is all cleaned up. But I want to make it very clear, this is not me complaining, because I'm fully prepared mentally to put in the work necessary to clean Optimus. In the beginning, it was quite a surprise, but now at this point, I've gotten used to it. I realize it's going to be a constant battle anytime I pull Optimus out of the garage, but at the same time, I'm proud to say that he's not a trailer queen. And in this show in particular, I took a lot of pride in telling people who thought he was trailer that nope, he was driven through a lot of bad weather, and here are the pictures to prove it. It actually brings me a lot of joy to see how surprised people are when they realize how much work went into getting him to a show-worthy condition. And that's just the reality of what I do. As a matter of fact, when you come to a show and get to enjoy the sights that it has to offer, I've likely already been at the show for at least a day and a half, getting Optimus prepped and ready for you. Now, I'll be the first to admit that I'm not a professional detailer. I don't do this for a living. I'm sure there are other ways of doing this, and I'm sure I may even be doing certain things the wrong way. But over the years, I've developed a system and I've figured out a process that works for me. Yes, it takes a ridiculous amount of time to do, but back to what I said earlier, no sacrifice, no victory, right? So this is the sacrifice I make for the victory in the end, which is seeing all of you smile from ear to ear when you walk through that door and see Prime shining. I hope you've all enjoyed learning a little bit about what it takes to clean Optimus Prime. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and do check out all the other great videos we have on documentaries and places we go and things that we've done to inspire the world over with our replica of Optimus Prime. I hope to meet you all real soon, but until that time, always remember to leave behind a legacy worthy of a Prime.